The film opens with a narration about mothers, the one person every child in the world prays for. Even though mothers are sometimes seen as strict or intimidating, a mother's love can never truly be compared to anything else. A mother is capable of doing absolutely anything for her children. The story then moves to a stormy night, where heavy rain pours over a remote farmhouse hidden deep in the hills. A woman named Rose is seen locking up a shed outside her home. She lives there far away from society with her only daughter Maisie and her paralyzed husband Roger. That night also happens to be Roger's birthday. To celebrate, Maisie prepares a cake for him while Rose helps organize a small surprise. Even though Roger can still see and hear everything around him, he cannot speak or properly respond to them. Before they begin celebrating together, Rose gives Roger his usual painkiller injection, something she routinely does every day. But in the middle of their quiet family moment, a teenage boy named Matty suddenly bangs on the front door, desperately begging for help. He explains that his older brother, Jack, is badly injured and lying unconscious outside covered in blood. According to Matty, the two of them got lost in the hills and were involved in an accident. At first, Rose refuses to let them inside because she immediately suspects the brothers might be dangerous. Still, Matty keeps pleading for help until Rose finally gives in and decides to help them. Once Jack is brought into the house, his condition looks terrible. He has a serious head injury, possible broken ribs, and a metal rod stuck deep in his stomach. Rose tells Matty that Jack needs to be taken to a hospital immediately, but Matty insists the nearest hospital is too far away. With no other option, he begs Rose to do whatever she can. Reluctantly, Rose agrees. With Maisie assisting her, she carefully removes the metal from Jack's body and stitches up the wound herself. After the operation is finished, Matty asks to use the bathroom so he can wash the blood off his face and clean the small knife he has been carrying. He also changes clothes and borrows one of Roger's spare outfits that Maisie prepared for him. While waiting for Jack to wake up, Rose invites Matty to sit down and share some food and coffee with the family. Grateful for the help, Matty thanks Rose for saving them. During the conversation, he explains that he and Jack are from London and were planning to go fishing by boat somewhere nearby. However, the way Matty tells the story feels strange. He keeps stumbling over his words, almost as if he is hiding something important. Not long later, Jack finally wakes up and thanks Rose for stitching his wounds so carefully. He explains that someone is waiting for them, but Rose tells him there is no way to contact anyone because the storm has knocked out the phone signal. Rose also reveals that her family lives completely isolated from modern technology. They do not own a television, a telephone, or even a computer because they survive only from their farm and have no need for any of those things. Instead, Rose suggests that Jack and Matty use a public phone located on the road leading toward the village, which might still be working. She offers to take them there once the storm calms down the next morning. Until then, she allows both brothers to spend the night in Roger's room. Later that night, Jack suddenly realizes that his bag is missing. He immediately panics and asks Matty where it is, because losing that bag could put them in serious danger. Nervously, Matty explains that he may have accidentally left it behind in the crashed car when he ran off to look for help. Desperate to retrieve the bag as soon as possible, Jack comes up with a plan. He secretly hides Matty's favorite notebook, knowing that Matty's mental condition makes him extremely emotional and unable to control himself over even small things. As expected, Matty becomes upset after noticing the notebook is gone. Using the situation as an excuse, Jack tells Rose that Matty needs help retrieving his belongings from the car left behind at the crash site. After calming Matty down, Rose eventually agrees to take Jack back to the accident scene so they can collect the missing notebook and the rest of Matty's things. Before leaving, Rose helps Matty settle into the bedroom to rest for the night. Meanwhile, Jack notices a photo that had fallen nearby and picks it up. Maisie explains that the boy in the picture is her older brother Ollie, who died in an accident that also left Roger permanently paralyzed. Once Matty is asleep, Rose quietly locks the bedroom door from the outside, just to make sure he does not become a threat to her family. She then tells Maisie to keep an eye on him and make sure the door stays locked. Soon after, Rose and Jack head toward the crash site together. During the drive, Jack comments on how skilled Rose is at stitching wounds and calming people down. Guessing that she must have worked in the medical field before, Rose then reveals that she used to be an anesthesiologist. However, for reasons she does not fully explain, she eventually left that life behind and chose to live in isolation as a farmer. Hearing that, Jack realizes just how lucky they were that Matty brought him to the house of someone who actually knows how to save lives. They should have left sooner. Welcome to Little Bone Lodge. Once they arrive at the crash site, Jack quickly climbs into the overturned car to retrieve his missing bag. But while trying to get it, he suddenly slips, forcing Rose to rush over and help him. That is when Rose accidentally discovers the body of Jack's friend Michael, dead inside the wrecked vehicle. After that, Jack forces Rose to take him to the public phone right away. Once they arrive, Jack calls a man named McAllister, who turns out to be Michael's father. Jack explains everything that happened, including the car crash and the fact that they are currently hiding at Rose's farmhouse until the storm passes. However, Jack lies about Michael still being alive and staying with Maddie. During the call, McAllister reveals that Michael, Jack, and Maddie are all being hunted by the police for robbery. He also demands more money if Jack wants his help and expects to be picked up safely. It then becomes clear why Jack was so desperate to recover the missing bag. The bag is filled with cash. Meanwhile, Rose quietly tries to grab a screwdriver from inside the wrecked car to use as a weapon, but Jack notices her attempt before she can do anything. Back at the farmhouse, Maisie spends time with Maddie while Rose and Jack are away. Since Maisie has spent most of her life isolated with only her mother for company, she is excited to finally interact with someone her own age. She invites Maddie out of the bedroom, and the two stay up talking late into the night. When Maisie asks where he lives, Maddie explains that he and Jack are constantly moving from place to place. As they wander around the house together, Maddie notices a locked room belonging to Rose. Later, Maisie brings him into her bedroom, where they listen to the radio together. Suddenly, the radio broadcasts shocking news about Michael, Jack, and Maddie. The report reveals that the three of them are wanted criminals involved in a robbery. Even worse, the news also mentions the death of a nurse from a psychiatric hospital, a murder Maddie is suspected of committing. Hearing all of this sends Maddie into a panic. He completely loses control and smashes the radio, insisting that he is innocent and that everything that happened was just an accident. After the outburst, Maisie escorts Maddie back to his room shortly before Jack and Rose return home. Once they arrive, Jack orders the entire family to stay in the living room until morning. Rose then asks for a few minutes so she can give Roger his regular medication. Jack agrees, but only if Maddie accompanies her. While preparing Roger's injection, Rose quietly tries to manipulate Maddie. Realizing that Maddie is emotionally vulnerable and not truly evil, she begins turning him against his own brother. But before anything else can happen, a police car suddenly arrives outside the farmhouse. Jack immediately tells Rose to deal with the officer and send him away. At the same time, Maddie is ordered to hide with Maisie, while Jack disappears into another room to avoid being seen. Officer Adams turns out to be patrolling the area in search of the three armed robbery suspects. While inspecting the farmhouse, he notices an old photo of young Maisie together with Roger. The moment Adams sees the picture, he becomes suspicious because he remembers that the little girl in the photo was reported missing years ago, along with her family. At the same time, Roger desperately tries to get Adams' attention and ask for help despite his condition. Watching this happen causes Rose to panic even more, fearing the truth is about to be exposed. Before the situation spirals further out of control, Jack suddenly attacks Adams. The confrontation quickly turns deadly when Rose shoots him with a shotgun, killing him on the spot. During the chaos, Jack is also knocked unconscious by Rose. Elsewhere in the house, Maisie violently lashes out at Maddie because she now believes he is a dangerous criminal. Meanwhile, Roger slowly begins regaining the ability to speak, but Rose immediately injects him with another syringe. Shockingly, the injection is not a painkiller at all. It is medication specifically meant to keep Roger paralyzed. Maisie is terrified and confused by what she is witnessing, but Rose calmly reassures her, insisting that everything she does is only to protect her. Not long after, the unconscious Jack and Maddie are handcuffed and dragged into a hidden basement beneath the house. Rose then orders Maisie to help move Adam's body into the trunk of the police car because she plans to stage the entire scene somewhere else. While helping her mother, Maisie secretly notices Adam's phone and quietly slips it into her pocket without Rose realizing it. Soon afterward, Rose and Maisie drive deep into the forest far away from the farmhouse. Once there, Rose shoots the front window of the police car and leaves Adam's body inside, hoping it will look like he was murdered by Jack and his group. By now, Maisie is beginning to feel suspicious about everything happening around her. She starts wondering why Adam seems so desperate to separate her from Rose. But Rose quickly manipulates her once again, convincing Maisie that everyone in the world is evil except for her own mother. Since Maisie has spent her entire life isolated with Rose and rarely interacted with anyone else, she instinctively believes everything Rose tells her. At that moment, Rose realizes Adam's phone is missing. She had planned to leave it near the abandoned police car so the authorities would never trace the signal back to her farmhouse. Still trusting Rose completely, Maisie secretly places the phone near the scene. pretending as if it had simply fallen there by accident. On the drive back home, Maisie begins remembering fragments from her childhood. She talks about a house made of red bricks and remembers her mother singing lullabies to her before bed. Maisie admits that she misses hearing Rose sing to her like that. Rose calmly explains that she stopped singing because Maisie is older now. Back at the farmhouse, Jack regains consciousness inside the basement and immediately starts looking for a way to escape. Using a small piece of metal, he repeatedly tries to unlock his handcuffs and reach the keys nearby, but despite several attempts, he still cannot free himself. A short time later, Maddie wakes up and completely loses control after realizing they have been locked underground. After struggling to calm him down, Jack convinces Maddie to help him unlock the cuffs. But escaping is not that simple. Jack refuses to leave without retrieving the bag full of money still hidden somewhere inside Rose's house. Maddie, however, no longer cares about the money and just wants to get away from the farmhouse as quickly as possible. The brothers soon start arguing, with Jack blaming Maddie for causing so much chaos because of his inability to control himself. The truth about their past finally begins to surface. It turns out Jack had previously placed Maddie in a psychiatric hospital because of his severe mental condition. During the conversation, it also reveals how Maddie was dragged into the robbery against his will. He lost control and accidentally killed a nurse at the psychiatric hospital. Then, after the robbery was over, Michael kept mocking and insulting Maddie for being stupid. Overwhelmed with anger, Maddie snapped and stabbed Michael while he was driving, killing him instantly. The attack caused the car to crash and overturn, which eventually forced Maddie to search for help and bring Jack to Rose's farmhouse. Jack becomes frustrated with his younger brother and finally reveals a painful truth. Their mother never died during Maddie's birth. Instead, she abandoned them because she could no longer handle Maddie's condition. Hearing this completely changes Maddie's mood. He suddenly becomes much calmer. Taking advantage of the situation, Jack decides to sneak back into the house through a second-floor window, while Maddie stays hidden inside the livestock barn and watches the area. Once inside, Jack enters Rose's private study, a disturbing room filled with knives and tiny bones. As he searches deeper inside, he discovers a woman lying motionless under a blanket on a bed. But when Jack pulls the blanket away, he is horrified. The woman is still alive, yet both her arms and legs have been amputated. The room is also covered with articles about missing families, and Jack soon learns the shocking truth. The woman's name is Bella, and she is Maisie's real mother. Maisie's true name is actually Jenny. From the newspaper articles, Jack discovers that Bella is Roger's wife, meaning Rose has been hiding an unimaginable secret this entire time. The horrifying truth behind Rose's past is finally revealed. Years earlier, Roger's family had been involved in a terrible car accident with Rose's family. The crash killed Rose's husband, her young son Ollie, and even her baby daughter Maisie. The tragedy completely destroyed Rose mentally. Consumed by grief and rage, Rose decided to take revenge in the cruelest way possible. She deliberately left Roger permanently paralyzed, then kidnapped his young daughter Jenny and raised her as her own child under the name Maisie. But Rose's revenge did not stop there. Bella was forced to witness her husband trapped in paralysis, while her own daughter slowly grew up believing Rose was her real mother. As a mother driven completely insane by loss, Rose wanted Bella to experience the exact same pain she had suffered, losing the family she loved most. Jack is deeply shaken after discovering Bella's condition. Even he cannot hold back his tears. Ironically, Bella begs Jack to go to the police, something Jack obviously cannot do because he himself is a wanted criminal. At first, Jack tries to think of a way to save her and take her out of the room. But Bella no longer wants to continue living like that. Instead, she pleads for Jack to end her suffering once and for all. Not long later, Rose and Maisie finally return home. After noticing a goat wandering loose near the house, Rose immediately becomes suspicious that someone may have entered the barn. She tells Maisie to stay behind while she goes to investigate. There, Rose finds Maddie hiding nearby. Once again, she manipulates him emotionally by telling him that he reminds her of her late son. For Maddie, who has spent his entire life longing for a mother's love, those words hit deeply. Without hesitation, he embraces Rose like she truly is his mother. Meanwhile, Jack manages to sneak down to the first floor using a small food lift and finally recovers the bag full of money. Unfortunately, the wound in his stomach tears open again during the process, forcing him to painfully stitch himself back together using whatever medical supplies he can find. At the same time, McAllister and his men finally discover Jack's overturned car, bringing them closer to the farmhouse. Back at the house, just as Maisie walks inside, Rose suddenly shuts off the electricity to prevent Jack from escaping unnoticed. Jack immediately grabs Maisie and threatens her with a knife before pulling her into the room where he is hiding. There, Jack finally reveals the horrifying truth about Maisie and her real family. At first, Maisie refuses to believe him because Jack is still a criminal in her eyes. But everything changes when Jack shows her Bella's necklace along with an old family photograph. Slowly, memories from Maisie's childhood begin returning to her. Realizing that her real name is actually Jenny, Maisie desperately asks where Bella is. But unable to tell her the painful truth, Jack lies and claims he does not know what happened to her mother. He then promises that he will help Jenny escape from the house. Without wasting any time, Maisie helps Roger into the car so they can finally leave the nightmare behind. Meanwhile, Jack searches for Maddie in the barn but cannot find him, forcing Jack to go back inside the house once more. When Jack confronts Rose, he tells her that he already knows everything she has done. Rose immediately tries to stop them from escaping, but this time Jack manages to overpower her, knocking her unconscious before taking her gun. Just as Jack is about to kill Rose, Maddie suddenly intervenes. By now, Maddie truly sees Rose as his mother and refuses to let anyone hurt her. He violently attacks Jack, shoving him to the ground and beating him repeatedly. In the middle of the chaos, Maisie rushes in and helps Jack hide inside the barn, while Rose regains consciousness and chases after them with a gun in her hand. At that exact moment, McAllister and his men arrive at the farmhouse. Knowing there is no time left, Jack hands the car keys to Maisie and tells her to escape with Roger while he seeks protection from McAllister. But instead of helping him, McAllister attacks Jack after learning that Michael is dead. Believing Jack is responsible for his son's death, McAllister brutally beats him in anger. Soon after, Rose arrives with Maddie beside her. McAllister, who now wants revenge on Maddie as well, demands that Rose hand the boy over. He even threatens to shoot Rose if she refuses. The moment Rose sees this happen, she immediately shoots McAllister in the head, killing him instantly. At the same time, Maisie deliberately crashes the car into McAllister's men so she can finally escape with Roger. Meanwhile, Jack eventually collapses from the severe injuries covering his body. In the final moments of the film, Maisie successfully reports Rose's crimes to the police, while Roger finally receives proper medical treatment at a hospital. But Rose herself manages to escape. The ending reveals Rose now living peacefully with Maddie inside a lonely lighthouse by the sea, almost like they are a real mother and son. And in the darkest twist of all, Jack suffers the exact same fate as Bella. So, the moral of the story is never trust a sweet old farmhouse family, because one minute you're getting free coffee and stitches, and the next minute you wake up with no limbs in a lighthouse basement.